It's already recording.
The recording was the note taker, not the
Oh,
now it is recording for real. Welcome everyone. Thank you for being here at the 3 December 2025 Werewolf Technical Steering Committee meeting. Um, we have a few things on the agenda, a little bit more on the actual steering side of things than on the development side this time, though hopefully we'll have enough time for or hopefully we'll have the appropriate amount of time for whatever technical discussion we need to have as well. Um, I sent the agenda out earlier. It is on your screen now. Is there anything that people would like to add to the agenda um, before we get started? Maybe one really quick thing, Rose, if you wouldn't mind giving just a report of how you think the OpenHPC BoF went, or I guess Rose or Tim or both.
yeah, I think it
Yeah,
was pretty good. Yeah, it was nice to see all the folks from the different providers there. I think OpenHPC did a good job of bringing people together. And it was a good way to compare, contrast, and sort of see what's going on between the different provisioners. And there was lots of questions from the audience and werewolves, and I think it went well.
agreed.
Yeah,
It was really nice to see everybody there and hear the presentations and kind of have that ability to compare and contrast a little bit. I mean, honestly, I think that we could have spent more time, right? I think with that particular group and the panel and the people that were there and the interest, that we could have been in there for quite some time. So that was exciting. And Werewolf shone. Not only Jonathan, did you do a great job presenting, and maybe I'm skewed on my perspective, but it seemed like Werewolf was shining in a lot of different ways, and there was a lot of interest there. So that was really cool.
it at least felt like the questions were mostly pointed at Werewolf, which was interesting. I learned a lot from the conversation for sure. Not the least. I had talked with a number of the the Open Chamois people already that week and was at the Open Chamois BoF before, so there wasn't as much added there in that conversation, but I hadn't heard much from the Confluent team before, so that was really useful to hear what's going on over there and what lessons we might learn from that experience. Awesome. So, any questions from anyone else in the room about that before we move on? All right. Next thing, a little bit of business is that the way our organization is written down anyway is that once a year, with the thought being that we would do it at SC, but there weren't enough people at SC to do this, that once a year we would reevaluate the provenance of the TSC chair. That's what I'm doing right now, and take nominations and vote for uh, anyone else to fill that seat if they would so like to do so. I will say that I do enjoy doing this and I am happy to continue. But I also, if there were someone that wanted to do it, would be more than willing to. My feelings would not be hurt, I think is what I'm trying to say. If someone would like to be responsible for organizing this meeting, I do feel, as I said before the recording started, that I've been falling behind a bit on pull request reviews, not even a bit, quite a lot. And that's not necessarily all my job, but also I have opinions and I stick my nose in a lot of things, so I kind of make it my job. And part of that is what I want to discuss in down here. But just in terms of nominations and voting, so that it's not a big, awkward, force the issue thing, there is a spreadsheet, and I will show it, that we have used historically for voting. And to force the issue of if anyone would like to be nominated or would like to nominate someone or themselves, there's a tab over here for putting down a name of someone that you think would be good to serve in this role. And then once there's been a moment for TSC people to, or the members of the committee to nominate, then we will take a vote by having a call or a row in here and people in columns. So I don't necessarily expect to do that here right now, but are there any questions or concerns about that as a process that we can or would follow for this between now and the next meeting?
Sorry, can I just recap it for my
Yes.
brain? So you're saying as the notes write, a kind of a rotation in leadership roles is on the table, and for the technical steering committee chair, and the possible pool to pull from are the people who are on the technical steering committee, which is that list that you just showed.
Not necessarily. So I think that would be the easiest thing, but someone else being the chair would be also a decision to bring them onto the committee. Um, so that could be done. It could be someone that's not currently on the committee for sure. The people that are currently on the committee are Greg, myself, Christian, Jeremy Seidel, and Tim. I believe that's everyone. And then John is no longer on the committee. So those are the people that would be voting, not necessarily restricted for nominations. But right now the TSC is the only people that have access to the spreadsheet. So I suppose if you are not one of those people and have someone in mind you think could or should be doing this, let one of those people know, and then they can reflect that nomination.
And so who votes? Is it like all of us that are here, or is
No,
it just the
those
people on
people,
the
the
technical
members
board?
of the committee. So Greg and myself and Christian and Jeremy and Tim.
Oh, okay, cool.
Hmm.
So have fun, guys. One of the ways that I thought I have found it helpful in other types of, groups like this is to request that each person that is, in the pool to identify if they're available for the position or not. You know what I mean? So that's less of kind of like a, yes, you can take it full on, but like who's even really available to take the position on.
Sure. I think I would ask that that be reflected with a self-nomination at this point. But and again, my goal here is to not make it or my what's motivating my kind of hands-offishness is I understand the awkwardness of both me being in the role and asking for the vote, and I don't want to put people in that position. So so that they don't have to make it about me individually. If they would like to nominate, they don't have to do it with me staring at them. They can just put a
Yeah,
name
totally.
in the
Well,
spreadsheet.
that's why like either you're available or not, then you still have to participate in on somehow.
Yeah.
Do you know what I
So,
mean? So
I'll
like
tell
you
you
kind
what,
of like
I
are
will
volunteering yourself out of it just as much as you would be volunteering yourself into it.
I will put everyone's name in here, and then people can delete themselves if they don't want to do it. And we'll leave it at that. Chris seems upset by that idea.
I'm not upset. I'm kind of laughing at that because yeah, it's just funny.
Anyway, we don't have to belabor right now. Like I said, my goal is to have that vote happen between now and the next meeting, not necessarily in a meeting, so we don't have to push it right now. And we can talk more on the TSC channel on Slack if we would like. Next thing is development status. So this is a little bit, unfortunately, unchanged from last time, but this is where we're sitting with the current release. The biggest thing, I think most of these things are relatively small. The biggest thing is show used tags for overlays, which is this wonderful help output that Christian has worked on. The best I can say, Christian, is I have it open and have built it and am looking at it right now. And it is my goal to have at
Yeah, but if you
least,
have it open and you're looking at it right now, you can hit the merge button right now.
I'm aware.
You could.
I I've only once merged in the meeting, and I think that it actually went badly.
So then you
But
have to retry. That's like what you tell your kids when they are learning riding bicycle. If they fall, try again.
just
So
keep
try
doing it.
again.
Yeah. So I'm reviewing that right now, and
Thank you.
Christian has provided updates from the last time I reviewed it. I expect they are largely in keeping. I just need to finish doing it. My goal
Good.
is to be done with that today. The rest of these things I think are relatively small, but it's been a little while since I've looked at them. So I will be reviewing that once I'm through this big rock. The next thing that is pertinent is this new PR for adding TLS support to the REST API. My first question, Christian, because I've only
No,
barely
no, no,
looked at
no.
this.
It's not a REST API. I will show.
Okay, great.
Can I share my screen?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Dup, 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 dup.
I think you're answering what my question was going to be is if it is
Yeah,
it for the entire Werewolf D or is it just for the REST API?
it's just no, it's a bit. Yeah, use desktop capture. No, I have to. No, add. Wait again. That can't I just use system capture window? There. Do you see my screen?
Coming.
Yeah,
Yeah,
perhaps
there we
wrong
go.
one. Yeah, but that should be also okay. Wait, let's make this a bit smaller. Got it smaller on your side?
Yes.
Yes. So,
Okay, the
so the
top of
thing
what I
is,
see is the last thing I see is SSHN01.
yeah, let's do it clear here. So it adds so basically it's adding the TLS or transport layer security, which is HTTPS for Werewolf D, which means that the first thing we have to do here is to check for the keys. That's this, it's in the configure section and we have the keys. So it just now adds a Werewolf key, which is the private key, which we don't need at the moment, but also the certificate. The certificate is, it uses the full qualified domain name and always Werewolf because we always use them in the hosts file and also the IP address. So that if you want to connect with HTTPS to a host, this is accepted. It's a self-signed certificate. But if you can also, if you want to have more bells and whistles attached, you can create the certificate yourself. So Werewolf itself will just create that kind of simple certificate. Or it's not really simple, yeah, kind of simple certificate. Now let's see. If the certificate is you enabled it in Werewolf conf, you have to say here enable HTTPS true, and also you have to say, okay, we need another port, so it's a secure port. What it really changes is now let's connect to that node. There is not the call line here. So that's basically the thing. So I'm just now connected to the overlay runtime and just get the overlay runtime now over HTTPS. And it's also this, yeah, let's have to go here again, but it disables, let's go one number down. And then we don't, so that the thing is that with that way, always the runtime template is protected. So that the guy on there, if somebody listens on the wire, he couldn't get he couldn't get what's inside the runtime overlay. So the rest, so the kernel and the system or the WW init overlay or system overlay cannot be encrypted because grub and CP grub or IPXC couldn't really get them. So it's the that they can't do HTTPS, so we still have to send them per HTTP. But on the other hand, that's just a kernel and something you can download always from the internet. So there's no harm done here. What I also can show, if we have here the keys command and we say, okay, create a new key. Now it created a new key with a new serial, and if we now go on the node and try that command again, now again with HTTPS, which worked before, it will now tell us, oh no, it could not because the certificate now just changed on the server side. It couldn't not get them now on the client side because the certificate changed. Yeah, that's basically it. Stop sharing. So the question here for you, Jonathan, and from CIQ is, I strongly recommend that for the API words would be really useful for the API calls. The REST API should also then hook into this TLS.
Oh, so that was what that comment was. So
Yeah,
that's
that
not
was what the
included
comment
here.
was. Yeah.
I see.
That's the reason, because it would be still enabled now. If you enable HTTPS, you could still call the API over HTTP.
Right.
I just secured the runtime overlays now, but that's the other thing. So now this is now just the first step. What I'm now trying to implement is so the thing is, you could always still get the runtime overlay because we don't know on the server side. So we could kind of limit still the IPs and stuff like this and do kind of checking that it comes from the right IP, but still an attacker could simply choose an IP from the node range and then get the runtime overlay anyway. So it's not a real security yet. The real security would be if we then store, or if I will try to use the TPM to get a unique key per session per node, where the node is then identified by its TPM. That's the final goal for it. So this would be, I don't know how complicated this is. It's complicated to understand, but there's a lot of code, and I found out because there's a lot the how did some comment called it the TPM, how to create all this TPM stuff. It's baroque. In German, I would say it's Byzantinic. It's kind of just complicated for there's no special reason that it must be so complicated, but it's really made complicated. It's
Right.
like, oh, they just added here a bell and a whistle there, and they have to do it this way and exactly that way. And things like, for example, if you want to access, if you want to seal something in TPM, you have to give it a handle. I don't know why I have to give it a handle. So like yeah, you really have to specify the hex address for it, and they are
Okay.
just of 4 hex addresses. Like it's something like this. It's just overwhelmingly complicated, but a lot of people explained how that works. So I think we could manage this, and in the end, it would be that when www clients at first to the OS registers, oh yeah, it at boot up, it will kind of create a quote, send the quote to the server. On the server side, this quote includes a signed, so the TPM creates that a quote, and in that quote, there's the boot log. And in the boot log, we could see the signatures or the checksums of the kernel, of the initRD, and all that kind of stuff, what was
Hmm.
done during booting. We know at the server side, we know what we sent out and the checksums, could compare them. And if that vote is good, then we can encrypt, because this quote also includes a public key. We could then encrypt a token, which then could be only decrypted on the node with the TPM. And then with that token and tier and HTTPS or TLS, we could really secure the runtime overlay then there's really no way to get it from any attacker.
So the first thing I 100% agree about putting the REST API behind TLS, especially if we're already
Yeah.
making keys. I was just it didn't need to be there if everything's localhost, but there's no reason why it shouldn't, and then you can
Yeah.
do cross node stuff without being as worried. So great. We should definitely do that.
Yeah, and for the rest, I will see. I have this week, so we have Hack Week this week, so I decided to do that. So I will try how far I will come with that this week, and then
Cool.
full
The next
yeah.
thing is, so you're talking about building or generating a unique key for the node. Like
Yeah.
in my mind, I would just want that to be a certificate that that you're signing, that the Werewolf server is signing and then giving out to the node, and then you can store that cert in the TPM, he says, knowing nothing about working with the TPM. And
Yeah.
then you can use that to do mutual TLS.
I don't know if this is really the thing. If we create that token, would be that at every time we boot, we check the boot log. and we know that it's booted. And then there is kind of, even if the attacker, so Xcat just sealed something in the TPM, but if you would boot then that specific node with a ISO or USB stick, you could still unseal that key. And now with that, if we do it with the quote, then we can really be sure that the node has booted what we sent to it. I hope so that it works. I just
That's the intent.
check if it's really working.
Yeah.
And then you could be really sure then even if an attacker gets in position of the hardware, boots it with its own distro, unseals the TPM, and then he has full access to the TPM. He could then still delete the TPM, but even then we don't care about it because if he wants to get and communicate with the Werewolf Dean, he has to send the signed boot log.
Okay. Tim, I saw you were.
I don't know if this is really working out and how complicated this is. It's weirdo.
Just
But it would, yeah.
Just two comments. For the tokens, you may want to look at JWTs. I don't know much about them, but that is a way of exchanging tokens that is common. The other thought is using HTTPS booting, right? So you could secure the chain by using HTTPS booting.
Yeah, but then still the chain, you could secure the chain, but the thing is really, I know there's HTTPS booting in UEFI, but then we couldn't, for example, boot the Raspberry Pis, and for these early stages where we just send out the kernel and the initRD, we don't care. Because they are kind of common knowledge.
I would make the argument that if you're securing it, you're not going to be using Raspberry Pis, and you're not going to be using machines that are using a BIOS as opposed to UEFI.
Yeah, it's just optional. Like you
Yeah.
you wouldn't.
Yeah,
have this
yeah,
facility.
okay, to be sure, yeah, you are completely right. For all the TPM stuff, I don't know if iPXE, so it has to be, I will check if iPXE really then does the necessary steps and then signs this kind of boot chain, if then it would be still be trustworthy or not. But
Well, I think if you're doing HTTPS booting in UEFI, you're not using iPXE anymore, right?
No, and
Right.
that might solve a whole bunch of other problems as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've been
but the thing is, then you have to get the key, the certificate of the server to the node.
and that's a provisioning thing.
Yeah.
That's when you physically have the box and you have somebody with eyes on it, and it's part of your security protocol that this machine came into the data center. It was duly logged. There was two people. They signed
but
off on it, and all that kind of
right,
stuff.
right. But if this really works out, like the documentation and how Reddit, so Keylime could do that. So Keylime basically already does that. With that kind of signed boot protocol, you can exactly see. You don't have to have physical access to the machine to trust the machine, because there's then really a signed and trusted process which starts from the TPM. And then you just have to believe that the manufacturer of the TPM did it in the correct way. And then the rest is kind of, you know exactly then what kind of software the UEFI runs and that stuff, and if that was correctly signed, and then at a given point you will see grub, shim, and all that going through with the right checksums. That's from the technology, if that really works out from the technologic standpoint, it's really a great thing but yeah.
Yeah,
Let's see.
I don't know enough about it, but I look forward to
Yeah,
seeing it.
the thing is, there is a lot of out of documentation on the internet, and many people try. So there's a lot of people, there's a lot of software really doing that stuff, but it's not easy to run it. So I once got Keylime running. That would be the alternative. That exactly does that kind of stuff, this kind of enrolling. So with Keylime, you would start a service on the node, and yeah, and that then kind of that would then have the problem that in the database, then it's known that you have. So if you would change anything in the overlays or boot with another kernel, this kind of you would have to re-enroll it again. But yeah, let's see. But that's just now the HTTPS would still adds at least some security.
It's at least a necessary step towards that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it doesn't feel so, oh yeah, we don't do anything.
You don't do anything at all. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
It's only a sub 1024 port. Tim, I think you added this discussion on merged IPv6 PR.
Yeah, if anyone had any questions or anything like that. So that I can boot a dual stack or a single stack IPv6 cluster now with Net Manager, or I added a new overlay for System D Network D because that's my network system of choice.
There wasn't one before?
No.
Interesting. Okay.
There
Awesome.
was partial implementation, but not for static IPs.
Okay. And that it works with the
Oh,
other
yeah.
overlays too, or do they still need to be updated?
Sorry, repeat that.
Does the dual stack IPv6 work with like Network Manager and other things? Or yeah,
Yep.
okay,
I tested those.
nice, thank you.
One comment to the IPv6 is just, I think you added the gateway or something like this.
Added what?
The IPv6 gateway or something like this was added, and then I was
Yeah.
thinking, no, I know we need that and all that stuff, but the idea of IPv6 was we don't need gateways and that kind of stuff anymore.
Well, you still
Yeah.
need routers, and right?
No, they are self-programming.
If you have if you're not managing your own, it's helpful if you're in a fully static environment.
Yeah. It's I totally understand it why you added it and we need it, but it's kind of, oh no. Yeah, well,
Because then you would need, there's some things you cannot hand out default gateways with DHCP, IPv6. It has to come from the router announcements.
I see.
And my guess is in some situations, in people who are doing HPC centers will not own the network switches, especially the upstream ones, right? So they can choose to do that, or they could also choose to use their own system. So that's why I had that.
So it's normally something like BGP that runs inside of the subnet. Is that how it's meant to work?
No, BGP is way heavier. It's more like it's ICMP, and ICMP has the ability to
Okay.
hand out both IPv6 subnets as well as the default router, a DNS, NTP, and a 6 to 4 prefix. So if you're going to do IPv6 only, you can get the prefix from there as well. Prefix 4 is
fascinating.
what it's called.
See, this is why when we switched ISPs at home, I thought for sure that they would give me like a dual stack environment with a V4 and a V6 if I asked for it, and then I could do all V6 inside and just be accepting that if I wanted to get to my home lab, I would have to do it over V6, and that would be a fun experiment. And I'd learn a lot about V6, and then we get them, and they don't have any V6 at all, and I'm like, what?
I get a /56. So yeah, I can get into my servers or V6 all the time. So
Nice.
that's kind of fun.
Awesome. And so there was I correct that the nightly build failure was from that PR? And I know you've got another PR that's waiting on review.
Yeah, I booed on it, but the SUSE has an issue as well.
that's always it's I don't know. It's a tumbleweed image, and tumbleweed is like the tumbleweed always rolling. It sometimes still has problems with the repos.
Yeah, and Rocky has been a little bit less reliable in the mirror sometimes than I'd like to. But yeah, what was the issue? It was a missing file that wasn't getting packaged, right? It was
Yeah,
probably a new
I forgot to add the overlay. I didn't realize that they were added individually.
That makes sense.
The Rel 8 was or Rocky 8, no, Rocky 9 was a mirror issue, probably because everyone was hammering it with the new version.
Yeah.
It's my guess. But it was a spec issue with the SUSE.
Okay. Awesome.
That will need to be looked at. I figured I would stay away from that since I'm more of the Rel
Okay.
side, or EL, or whatever you call it.
Yeah. The next thing that I wanted to bring up, and this is a conversation that started within CIQ at after I was at the OpenShami meeting. I'll just be like really open and blunt. Like the best thing that OpenShami has going for it is they have a really strong industry participation, like amount of industry participation. And I look at all the people that are using Warewulf, and I wonder why we haven't brought industry partners in that are using Warewulf but kind of don't have skin in the game. And so uh, we mentioned this to some people at Redline that we were talking with that I know have been really strong proponents of XCAT in the past. They were on the XCAT TSC. They seemed excited about the idea of being on the Warewulf TSC. I think we spoke with someone at Dell as well who was interested. Oh yeah, yeah. What am I thinking? We were talking to oh, what's his name? I don't know, a guy that's on. I'm forgetting all of the nouns right now, but there was a guy at Dell that was interested in this as well. And AWS might seem odd, but a guy from AWS keeps coming up to me and telling me that he has customers that are running Warewulf in AWS, and they just have an iPixie AMI that they boot and pointed at their on-prem Warewulf server through a VPN. And I was like, well, if you actually want to be doing stuff like that, what if you were, involved in the process and helped make sure that it was doing what you wanted? So mostly, I just wanted to bring this up here in this audience and ask what thoughts, concerns, opinions people might have about bringing on more industry partners into this group and what expectations we would have for people to do that. And the two, yeah, and someone, is that Tim? No, Christian has added Megware, I guess. I don't know anything about
Yeah.
Megware.
That's a German kind of.
Okay.
It's like a bit smaller than Redline, but that's kind of
Okay.
just reseller of Supermicro stuff.
And we were thinking that in order, with the current people already grandfathered in, new people coming in should be making some kind of commitment to either putting a portion of someone's time developing Warewulf into the project or be sponsoring that at a different contributor. So maybe they would send SUSE money or CIQ money or Redline money if they were wanting to do it to fund such development. And that would be another way to do it if they didn't have staff to do it. What do people think? What
Hmm.
concerns or happiness or thoughts do people have? And I will be ready for notes.
I like the idea. I'm always going to like the idea of more collaboration. You have to be very clear with the incentive for these folks to join, right? And like what the requirements are. So just putting that out there kind of thing.
So are you saying, Jonathan, that they would be part of the TSC or just part of this meeting or both?
I am suggesting that we would want, let's say Redline as an example, just because they're at the top of the list. Redline would have a representative in this meeting that would have a vote. They would be a member of the TSC, and that would make them more kind of habitually involved in the development as a result, and that to get that, they would need to have some kind of commitment to having some portion of time that we would decide what fits that bill of someone from Redline or that they're sponsoring of
Yeah.
development into Werewolf.
Okay, so I mean, all of you guys work for companies that benefit from Werewolf, right? I mean, SUSE does, CIQ does, Internet 2 does, right? There's
Not really, not
So
directly.
less so
not
Internet
really.
too, and then SUSE's is up in the air a little bit, at least last I
Yeah.
heard, which is why I also was curious. And Christian, if you're not comfortable talking about this right now, we can do that elsewhere. But
It's at the moment not in the product, but it's on Leap. So, and I have basically some hours a week where I can just spend for upstream open source projects. So,
yeah,
Hmm.
do you think that there would SUSE be open to a conversation about returning or maybe reformalizing SUSE, even if it's not part of a product right now, thinks maybe it will be in the future and is formally sponsoring the project by putting your time into it, for example.
I will talk to my boss and see.
Okay.
My thinking is that you may want to separate the sponsorship and time commitment from the TSC and make the TSC more a governing board, and then bring this conversation of supporter in, as in you get a logo, and when you get a logo, it means that you have some in-kind contribution. You get a voting member on the TSC, things like that, but do it from that angle. That way you reduce the friction for folks from the community that are technically minded and that just want to step in and do it and not deal with all the red tape associated with becoming a TSC member.
So I think that you're saying it maybe even from both directions. One, someone might want to contribute and get a logo on the website, but not have to actually deal with governance. And so from that direction. But then also someone might want to participate in governance and we might want to accept them regardless of whether they're contributing, but then they wouldn't get a logo on the website. Is that the kind of thing you're thinking?
Um, the first one, I was not thinking of that, but that's a good idea. Maybe people just want to give money because they don't want the project to go away to support it, right? They don't necessarily need to be in the TSC part of it. No, I was thinking that individual contributors may want to contribute and just contribute technically, right?
Right. Okay.
Uh, the thing, what we also uh, could we also get university partners? Because we have universities running Werewolf.
Right.
And that's where I think the logo thing could help,
Yeah.
right? They could be, and then you would want to tie a little bit of either financial or in-kind contribution to get your name up on as a sponsor. You could also separate that group. There might, the TSC is a technical thing. There might be another governance body that is associated with the sponsors, right? The supporters, right? The steering committee, right? Those types of things.
Yeah, right now, kind of everything is TSC because that's the amount of bodies that we have. But the idea of once we brought more people into governance, it would probably make sense to be splitting it into different groups that are more
Yeah, and I
focused.
wouldn't tend to grow that initially because when it's all volunteer work, like it mostly is now from a decent amount of folks, then you can't tell them what to do, right? In terms of it doesn't matter what the steering committee does. I'm going to work on whatever I want to, right? So now I'm going to get what's good for the project thing, but so I think separating that effort direction and the technical part is important.
Any other comments or thoughts or feedback or guidance on this? I think I'll take these notes and summarize it into the TSC channel on Werewolf also, so that we can get potential feedback from Jeremy and Greg on this. Although Greg and I were talking about it as a high level idea at the show. But anything else that I should note down here while we put a plan for this together? Or any other people that thank you, Christian, for adding Megware. Anyone else that we should add to the list as potential reach outs? All right. The last thing on the list, which is a holdover from last time, I think, Tim, this was yours, a timeline for splitting host overlays. So for context, this is in comparison to where we had two big monolithic runtime and system overlays. We split those out into overlays per service. But we still have one big host overlay where the host overlay is the thing that configures the Werewolf server itself. It's usually what's applied by Werewolf control configure. So Tim, what shall we discuss?
Oh, I just wonder when that's going to happen. That's a little bit deeper than I can get in terms of the guts of Werewolf, just because um, it's it's pretty thick down there. So
I
um,
think this is actually not that scary, but fixing it will fix some really
yeah,
frustrating to me niggling things where right now anything that does, maybe not even anything, but there's at least a couple places where configuring a service applies config from other services because it's just applying the entire host overlay. Um, so
my
uh,
IPv6 work was an absolute mess from a workflow perspective. So I just kind of like mashed buttons to get it to work. Um, and that's one of the reasons. Also, my Raspberry Pi work as well is it's a little bit annoying, and I'd like to ship that out of. I don't necessarily see the Raspberry Pi work being in band, but you would want to it because it's evasive. You need to be able to disable it, right? So it's either it'd make it easier to support it out of band, or if it was in band, it would need to be, or in
mm,
package, it would need to be disableable, and that's not how the host overlays work.
I see. What if we targeted this as a 4.7 feature, like a 4.7.0 feature, and then we planned to try and get that out in the first quarter of next year?
I have no real, I mean, I'm not doing the work, so it would be great. But I just wanted to get some ideas in terms of that, in terms of the way I'm going to work.
Yeah, but then we would have the tags and also TLS in 4.7 and that three things together kind of then. And
I
that's
feel
really something which changed now.
I feel good about that target and those being relatively tractable features that aren't big blow up the world, but are actually like meaningful changes that I wouldn't want to do just in a 4.6 dot something. Certainly the host thing.
And do
TLS we
it in
maybe could do in a 4.6 dot, but it would be good to group it, I think, with a feature release.
yeah.
And
I
yeah,
and I have, in terms of breaking changes, I have opinions, I'll call them, around how IP Adder and IP Adder 6 and NetMask and all that stuff are named and implemented. That might go into that as well.
yes. Um, yes. I know we had a conversation about that. Was that just on Slack or is that in
Not
a
publicly.
okay.
The TLDR is it was quite messy and it broke my brain when I added IPv6 and the way net masks and broadcast address and things like that. And my tear it down, blow up the world version solution was just call everything IP adder 6 and make it a CIDR and then make everything else from that dynamic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
That's
think
we have two big messes right now, from which at least I know that's this kind of we have a lot variables in there which for not all we use. So we have to really, if we would really refactor the code, we should then really just drop out all the variables we have which we don't use really in the code, which we just use in the templates, and everything we just use in the templates can become to attack. And the other thing is the handling of the HTTP. That's a complete mess. That's spaghetti code in the so like splitting out. We have a handler for the templates, one for the overlays, and then they all go back to one function. Then still,
yes.
yeah,
So
It,
right now, my thought is I would want to, and push back on this. I would want to move the refactoring of the IP adder structure to a V5 and not to push that out further, but to include that in the release where we say, okay, we're fixing a bunch of stuff that's broken in the user experience, and that's one of them. And maybe
Also, when I now just today and yesterday looked into the code, and no, and today I wrote a template which then copies the key to the www init template, and it's not so unclear our naming scheme. There's kind of no logic behind. You really have to look it up.
yeah,
which naming scheme? You just the overlays stuff or
In the
everything.
overlay, so like yeah, it's in the YAML, it's called it's we have the port numbers. It's with in the YAML. It's HTTPS port and that port but with a space inside. But in the template itself, you have then to go back to the name which is in the data structure.
Mm.
So once we're ripping things apart, can we get rid of spaces in the YAML as well?
I would love it. Let's do it. I'm gonna write that down as a V5. V5 is IP adder.
And then
Space.
really check which variables we need in the code, which
Yeah.
are definitely the network addresses where we really have to calculate on them. But there's so much stuff we have which we can now move to tags, which we could group. Like we have tags especially for IPMI or for every network and that kind of stuff. But or for the kernel perhaps or not. But yeah, if the kernel command line, I don't know why this must be a first citizen in a data structure. We never really look at it. Oh, I
All
don't
right.
know if there's a good reason to look at it. Perhaps we look at the kernel out at a given point. I don't know.
I would like to make an assignment for next time. I will make sure there, in fact, I'll do this right now. We have time for me to do this right now. I'm going to make sure that there are milestones for this, that we have a 4-7 milestone and a 5 milestone. Yes, so we have a 500 milestone and a 470 milestone. Put stuff in there that you want in there, and then we'll look at it next
Yeah.
time.
But so especially that when you set something in the config that you immediately know how to access it in the that we have a sync or sync it back with these the
Yeah.
thing is we desync that on deliberately. There's no reason why the YAML looks like this.
Yeah. So let's fix it. We'll
Yeah.
fix it in V5, and it'll be great.
So
No.
are you saying that you're thinking of putting tags in the host overlay? Is that I missed that.
Not
No,
not specifically. I think that's just an also. Uh, there should be tags in the or we should move things out of the structure and into tags when they're only used in a template
when they're
elsewhere
only
in the
used in the
code.
template. Exactly.
You can put tags in a host overlay though? And in the host configuration?
Right now, no. And so
Okay.
that would not be in scope for this, I think. This is just for the other overlays.
No, they are in the host overlay. They are
There's nowhere to write them.
yeah, there's no place.
The
That's
host overlay
perhaps
can
the
see
thing
the
we will
tags
have
on the
to
nodes.
that we should add that to 5 that the host overlays
Have-
that
They have tags and they're split out and they've been renamed.
Yeah.
yeah
I'm writing it down too.
yeah.
And then we can
But
get
you
away
already had
with
it split
renaming
out the host
absolutely
overlays,
everything.
Yeah. I will say one other thing that I would like to see happen in a version 5 that I don't have a solution for. So naming things is like super important to me, and the way we talk about overlays is broken, and I don't know how to fix it because we have the individual overlays that are the source, but then when you build overlays, there's an overlay per node that's like an overlay image, and that gets
And-
really confusing
but
for people.
I deliberately broke that. Greg just had that 2 overlays and I split them up.
Well, I totally agreed with splitting it, but people get confused about each node's overlay versus the individual overlays. And so if anyone has a suggestion for how to fix that and how we talk about it, that would be
Call
great.
them templates.
They're not
No,
always
individ-
templates though.
Each individual file is a template.
Yeah, just always.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's a template.
And they get rendered to an overlay.
Yeah.
No, the overlay is more the transport.
Anyway, anything else that we need to discuss before we call it for today? Then thank you all for your participation.
Wait,
Oh, wait.
one last question to the you had it in the comment for the okay, HTTPS enable is a bad idea. I will just call it then we just call it TLS, and it will be www configure TLS. Is that okay for the rest of you? I know Jonathan wants this. Yeah, okay, the rest nods. That's okay. Is he your boss, Chris?
No,
Okay.
no.
Just wanted to be
I
sure.
have a
I don't even
strong
know how many
preference for
degrees of separation
calling.
you have to go through to get between me and Chris.
Yeah, I think it ends in Greg. Um, I always prefer precise language over generic language. So like TLS is very specific, it's very accurate. HTTPS could mean 7 different things to 7 different people, right? So
Yeah.
that's why I'm
And
nodding
then just
emphatically.
Where my biggest thing was just like I don't care as much about HTTPS versus TLS, but I'm trying to get rid of that space, and I don't think enable is necessary, so we can just say whatever it is
yeah,
true.
yeah, yeah.
As long as it's not called SSL.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks,
Okay.
everyone. We'll see you again. Well, actually, let's see. When is a couple weeks? A couple weeks is the 17th. Do we still want to have one on the 17th, or are people out that early? Still good on the 17th? I'll still be working.
Okay.
All right. See you all then.
See you all then. Bye.